What's going on, family? So it's Tim Ross out of pocket for this advice that he gave to a married couple. So we're going to react to this viral clip straight from the Tim Ross podcast at the basement. But before we do us a quick favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and hit that notification bell. So the context of this clip comes from a question in his live stream where he basically tackles the topic of a wife fulfilling or feeling, I guess, their husband, basically them feeling filled by their wife. Now, wasn't a lot of context given, and so he went down the rabbit hole of talking about ultimately you seek fulfillment or that feeling, so to speak, from God. Ultimately, God is the one that can fill you in the way holistically that you desire. But then he started going down some of the nuts and crannies of the topic. He started to go down a rabbit hole, and he landed in a really interesting place, which has social media going crazy, people giving a lot of pushback to this, and we will let you all know our thoughts on it. But let's get into this clip.
Listen, man, a lot of these marriages it's just glorified dating. And the reason why I know it's glorified dating, because y'all niggas think y'all can just break up. It just didn't work out. Irreconcilable differences. Code word for y'all misunderstood each other.
Right.
I didn't know her body was gonna look like this after the kids. Just the stretch marks I can't get past. That's your baby.
Right.
Broke her skin out like that. And all these men, listen, hey dog. Listen, if your wife, I'm gonna speak up for some wives right now. If your wife could keep it a buck with you, she never signed up for 5 inches. While you worried about her body shape and she gained a few pounds and all that kind of stuff, what she's never told you is she had an 8-inch peen and she married 5.
Amen.
And she died to the thought of the 8-inch peen and accepted your 5.
And you got a gut.
And if it's 5 and you got a gut, you can't see it. Hey, dog, I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Because we always out here trying to act like the guy and my wife is letting herself go and she doesn't sexually satisfy me. Let your wife talk a buck. Your ego is too fragile. That's why she never brought it up. You have no idea how many women are sparing men's egos in the bedroom and in counseling because you never get over it. You never get over it if she really told you how she felt about your peen. You would never get over it if she really told you how she felt about your teeth. You would never get over it if she really kept it a buck about your back hair. You would never get over it.
Yo, that was wild. That was wild. I've already seen this and talked to people about it, but I want to get your thoughts. This is your first, I'm assuming your first time actually seeing it.
Yeah, so, I mean, here's my thoughts. It's a lot of truth to what he's saying as to wives not truly saying everything that's on their minds. I would say 100%. A lot of women, period. Like, we may be thinking something or things like that, but that don't mean we're going to say, just like, "Nah, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say anything or whatever. No, it's not that big of a deal. No, blah, blah, blah. No, it's okay, blah, blah, blah." And so I'm just going to say that in general for different things, not necessarily just what he was talking about in this video necessarily. He was using that as an example. And a lot of men do outwardly say, you know, my wife needs to look like this. I want to be able to have my wife on my arm and be able to show her off. So if I'm taking her out, she needs to look good. She's a representation of me. He's right. You hear that a lot. A lot of men say that, you know, they're talking about if they decide to get married or if they are married, things like that. A lot of women be out here dressed like this, and then their husbands be like a polo, and like they just be, you know, basic sometimes or things like that. But it's not a big deal, and he makes sure she look good, and when she looks good, you know, that makes him look good because you're taking care of your wife and things. So I agree with him that yeah, a lot of women are not truly saying everything, and it is a lot of, you know, pressure of you need to have a wife that you're proud of visually. So nah, it's a lot of truth to what he's saying. I have to say overall.
Overall, okay. So I wanted to give that initial context because I feel like he said a lot of good things, even in the context that we show with this clip, a lot of good stuff. And he said even more in the earlier part where he talked about, you know, ultimately pointing to God for that fulfillment or feeling. I don't even know what feeling filled. It was just a weird wording. So he took it every which way and direction he could go to. So I'm guaranteeing that clip spoke to somebody. I think the example definitely was a little more graphic and hyperbolic than I would personally like, because number one, he used that as an example, but it's not something that someone has necessarily control over. It's not something you can control. And then he used the number to describe like what I guess people would say, I don't know, small, when if you look up the average, that's about your typical everyday guy is about that size. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, whatever. So it was one of those things where I saw in the comments a lot of people gave him major pushback because they were like, why would you take it that direction as something that, like, all those things that he named that a woman might have? Sure, like obviously if you've had a baby and you get stretch marks, that is a lot less in your control. There are things you can do that can kind of help to reduce them, but there's going to be some stretch marks. There's going to be some residual effect of having a child. That's very understandable. No man should, like, you're a jerk if you're pressing your wife about that. Like, that's a beautiful thing. Shouldn't even be looked at as a negative. So I'm with him on that. But a lot of the stuff he named, like weight, like I can go down a list. A lot of those things you have much more input and control over, and then obviously what size you're born with. So that was what I would say, like that derailed a bigger point that I feel like he would have been valid on. And then I also think and again, I'm trying to be fair to Tim because I feel like he was going down a rabbit hole of things, but a lot of what he did end up saying felt more centered on the man, not like the man being at fault. And I didn't show you the original question because this was a longer clip of context, but the original question that she asked was, or the original question that she gave included the fact that she made some mistakes and he has forgiven her, but yet still he doesn't feel, fulfilled or filled in their marriage. So she did acknowledge that there were some flaws that she had. Now, obviously, but he ended up saying, well, you're saying there's flaws. I'm sure he could say there's flaws too. So he's automatically kind of on the flip side of taking the woman's side in this when she's out the gate saying like, hey, I did some things for him that probably have contributed to him not feeling as filled in this marriage. And I just didn't like that he took the conversation to be more catered toward the woman. Yeah, I get it. She's the one that's asking the question, but assuming that the guy is being unfair and saying he's not filled in his marriage to the liking that he has, I just didn't like that he spun it. And I find this a lot with men in the church. And this is why a lot of men, I'm speaking to this because I feel like it's important that we have a voice to this, but there's a lot of men that don't like the church because they feel like it's always catered to women. Like, why do you feel the need to always, and this is where I'm going to go on my tangent, but why do men in the church always feel the need to come to the defense of women on everything? Like, I get it. There's more women, especially like in a black church, there's a lot more women in the church, but it gets to a point where the men that are interested in pressing in, when they see everything always about the woman, it's like, oh, well, you gotta look at both sides, or oh, the woman, couldn't possibly have been wrong in the situation, when she's literally out the gate saying like, yeah, there were mistakes that I've made and he's forgiven me for those things. And she could be overcompensating, but it's just the fact that if she's the one saying things, why would you focus on the person that's not even there, that you don't even know the story for instead? And I feel like the default of a lot of men in the church is to assume it's the guy, when the guy could have been doing everything right. And she could just be, maybe it's not something that you have enough information to even comment in, but to even take it that direction, to go on a tangent about guys, for me, just continues to highlight an issue that a lot of men have with the church. What do you think about that part?
No, I see what you mean by that. Like, just because you're bringing up the guy's perspective and how they're feeling, or their point of view on a certain thing, doesn't mean you have to automatically counter it. Be like, well, a woman, she would have to go blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I agree. You don't always have to bring up the woman's point of view or whatever in that conversation. And I actually want to go back to the beginning part because of the clip. I really do appreciate the part that he said a lot of people in marriage are just still acting like they are dating. That to me was like the most important part, because he was saying people are just thinking they can just break up off of a little miscommunication, misunderstanding, seeing things differently, whatever it may be.
Irreconcilable differences.
Exactly. And I'm like, Yeah, it's deeper than that. When you make that commitment, right? If it is really that important to you, if it really wasn't just about
Yeah.
the ring and the dress and looking good in front of your people, if it really wasn't just about that,
What
it's
happened to
work.
death do you part?
Exactly. I'm like, it's work. And it's not to say that it's
Mhm.
going to be perfect. It's not going to say that you're going to have moments where you just looking like, oh, like this is not what I signed up for, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. But you have to know that there's going to be good days. There's going to be days where it's like not as good,
Mhm.
right? But I'm not going to say it's going to be bad days because not everything in that day was bad. So, no, I'm not going to say that. But there's going to be moments and you need to pray and you need to ask God to help you. You need to ask God even to help
Yeah.
your spouse. Show him what I'm trying to explain, what he's
Facts.
seeming not to get.
Mhm.
I'm not getting through to him, right? We're not coming to some type of agreement,
Exactly.
things like that. But there are things to do. He talked about counseling, things like that. But I agree. And especially if you are a couple
Mhm.
that you were living together, you were, you know, doing everything you are doing kind of now while you were married, right?
Mhm.
A lot of times you see that issue to where they were, you know, not married, whatever. And so maybe they're just like, you know what, I need a breather. I'm out. Things like that. And so then in the marriage, they're doing the same thing because they was doing so much as if they were married before they were
Yeah.
actually married. So I really like that point more than anything in
Yeah.
this
He
video.
has some strong points in it, but
Mm,
I think what it comes down to, and I'll just say real quick, like, him throwing the strays at the irreconcilable differences spoke. I mean, like, I didn't like that he made light of that, because that's a trigger point for people that, like, just because that was what our divorce was filed on, it doesn't mean that it wasn't like a justified reason.
yeah,
But
it's just like a category.
there could be
Yeah.
abuse in there. So I'm just going to throw that out there to be fair to that for those. So, because I do think abuse is a serious matter. But if it wasn't like in the parameters of like fidelity and things like that, then I'm like, yeah, don't say till death do you part if you don't mean it. So that's kind of where I said it. If you don't mean it, just don't include that. Like, talk to, I don't know. I haven't even thought too much about this, so it's kind of funny. But maybe slide the pastor or minister to the side and say, "Hey, can you not include till death do you part in the part that I say I do too?" Because
What?
I might not actually mean that. Like, can you actually get rid of that?
Mm,
Because I think that's a serious thing that comes to mind. Is like some people need to talk to these pastors. Like, hey, I'm not saying that this is gonna go south, but I'd be lying if I said it was really till death do us part. Because there's some things that she could do that I'm not willing to say I'm gonna be with you until death. Like, I think if people were honest, if we were all honest, I mean, even as Christians, I mean, like, yeah, even though the Bible gives us like room to say, like, okay, if there was cheating and infidelity and stuff, yeah, you're free to leave, scot free, is cool and all that stuff. Vice versa, even with that, that's not till death do you part. So that's not a biblical command that your marriage needs to be till death do you part. It's something that I think has been added in there. I get oneness, but even the Bible gives cause for you to like separate because of infidelity, and you can even argue abuse. So till death do you part is probably gotten so watered down, and also the heart of it has been lost. I don't even know what that means anymore. So maybe pastors need to cut that out. It sounds good on paper, but I don't think it actually holds up in a lot of the marriages we see. I think that needs to change. That's my hot take of the day, though. I don't know. What do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about this entire topic? Are we the ones out of pocket? Well, am I the one out of pocket for thinking that like how he spent this was a little bit off? Or do you agree with his overall message of like contentment in Christ and God, and letting God be the one that fulfills all your needs? And then when it comes to marriage and things like that, leave room for that growth. Let us know what you all think about it. Leave a comment below. But before you head out, do us a quick favor. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like this video. It helps push our videos through the algorithm so more people can get our content. And make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and hit that notification bell.